The Elder Scrolls Online Update 47, otherwise known as the Feast of Shadows, has officially arrived for PC players. As always, I'll be covering this update from my healer-centric point of view, making sure to focus on all the relevant information that healers could need. Even if you're not a healer though, make sure to stick around because this is a pretty packed update. My name's Doc, your host for all things healing, and let's get into this. To start, I know a lot of you guys are interested in the balancing changes, so let's talk about them. If you saw my PTS video, you got the bulk of the changes for healers already. However, after some community feedback, ZOS went back and made some changes from the week 1 patch, so a lot of this may be new to you guys. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room first, the class ultimate passive changes. Originally, ZOS had made it so that every ultimate generation class passive no longer granted unique ultimate, but instead granted major or minor heroism depending on the passive. A lot of players were fairly frustrated by this change due to the fact that the change would have rendered some of these passives, well, pretty much useless. Minor heroism can be easily sourced from heroism potions, and major heroism can be easily sourced from Pearls of Elnathay or the Trample skill. Fortunately, that has since been changed. All of these passives now still give unique forms of ultimate, but they now all share a unique cooldown, which you cannot activate another one of these passives while one is on cooldown. So, for example, the Prism passive from Dawn's Wrath has a cooldown of 6 seconds. If you activate Prism, you cannot activate another one of these passives, such as Transfer or Corpse Consumption, for 6 seconds. Corpse Consumption has a cooldown of 16 seconds, so you cannot activate another ultimate passive for 16 seconds after using Corpse Consumption. You get the idea. The only one immune to this rule is the Catalyst passive from the Siphoning skill line. This passive grants you ultimate when consuming a potion, so this means that the Siphoning skill line is still alive and well because that passive is still one of the strongest forms of ultimate generation in the entire game. Speaking of the Catalyst passive, it got a small nerf that reduced the ultimate you gain from it to 11 at level 1 and 22 at level 2, down from 15 at level 1 and 30 at level 2. Despite that nerf though, keep in mind that this version of Catalyst is still stronger than it was prior to Update 46, so I can safely say that Siphoning will definitely still be an S-tier skill line in Update 47. While we're on the topic of ultimate generation, let's all just go ahead, put an F in chat and pay our respects to Replenishing Barrier, because that skill got gutted. Like in my notes here, I literally just typed RIP Replenishing Barrier. With Update 47, it no longer grants ultimate after the shield dissipates and instead restores magicka to you. It's not the worst effect in the world, but I definitely think it is now just objectively worse than Reviving Barrier. Maybe instead it could restore magicka and stamina to you and your teammates, but I don't know, it would probably still not be better than Reviving Barrier, but that might at least make it worth it for groups that struggle with sustain. I don't know, that was just the first thing that came off the top of my head. You get the idea. Barrier spam builds will likely take a hit because of this, but I do think that people will simply just adapt to having less but stronger barriers when they swap back over to the Reviving Barrier morph. Grim Focus got a nerf that removes the passive weapon and spell damage that you get from building stacks of this ability. I think ZOS was going for the idea that they want to encourage people to actually use this skill rather than having it as a passive damage and healing buff, which I understand. While most subclassed healers weren't really using this skill, I know that there were some pure class Nightblade healers that were still using this, so I figured I'd mention it for you guys. Bound Armor and its morphs saw quite a few changes originally, then ZOS partially changed it back. I'll be honest, this skill has been all over the place in this PTS cycle, so just to save some time, I'll say this. The biggest reason that healers brought the Bound Aegis skill was because it passively granted us extra magicka while slotted on either bar. However, while it does still grant the permanent defensive buffs, it no longer grants us extra magicka. It'd probably be pretty decent for PvP healers, but in PvE, yeah, we can go ahead and safely unslot this skill. The Arcanist class mastery script got a change exclusively on the Banner Bearer skill. Now, if you're at max Crux, you'll generate 3 ultimate when the skill tries to generate Crux again. DPS folks will be much more impacted by this than us healers. However, I did get some really good questions about if Arcanist healers maybe should consider slotting Banner Bearer with the class mastery to generate ultimate. Personally, I'm gonna say probably not. Bar space is already pretty tight as it is, and Banner Bearer takes up 2 bar spots, one on the front bar and one on the back bar. If the ultimate generation was higher, I might say to consider it, but dedicating your base class, 2 skill slots, and your Banner Bearer scripts to generate that little ultimate just isn't really worth the hassle in my opinion. Finally, for the balancing section, healers did get one small change to a commonly used set, that being Roaring Opportunist. It dropped the penetration stat line and instead added weapon and spell damage there. Again, it's a pretty small change, but it'll be a little boost to our healing output, which is always appreciated. Up next, we're talking about some of the new content we're getting, starting with the Feast of Shadows dungeon pack. This dungeon pack, included in the content pass, introduces 2 new dungeons for us, Caldeesh and Black Gem Foundry. Now that I've had the opportunity to do these dungeons as a healer, I'm still just as impressed as I was on the PTS. I'm not really surprised though, because the dungeon team has always done fantastic work. The stories are engaging, the fights are fun, and the mechanics are really interesting. While there are definitely some mechanics that we've seen before, especially if you've played Stone Garden or Moon Hunter Keep, there are definitely some new-ish mechanics that I'd be really excited to see more of. From a specifically healer perspective, I honestly really appreciated the work Zoss put into these dungeons, but especially in Caldeesh, to make healers feel more valued. I won't talk about it too much because I want you guys to experience these for yourself, but there is a few notable heal checks in some of these bosses that were honestly a lot of fun. I think there are still some dungeons that I do like more than these, but I gotta say, these are up there on my list of favorite dungeons. In terms of any healer sets that we can get from these dungeons, we don't really have much to talk about. The only healer-ish set from this dungeon is called Lustrous Soulwell, and you can find it in the Black Gem Foundry. It will grant health, magicka, and stamina recovery for you and 3 group members when you cast your ultimate. Recovery sets haven't really been necessary in PvE for quite some time now, and if you need a recovery set for PvP, there are just better options. Up next, we got Solstice Stuff. Well, sort of. The Writhing Wall Event doesn't start until October, but the foundations for the event have been laid out for us. If you start exploring Solstice, you can now begin to find siege camps along the eastern border of the island. You can actually get the prompt that you've discovered them, but they won't appear in your map quite yet. Fun fact about that, I had actually gotten so used to the event being active on the PTS that I forgot it doesn't start until October, so I was running around Solstice for like 20 minutes trying to figure out why none of the siege camps were active, and then Zone Chat kindly reminded me that the event hasn't started yet. When the event does kick off though, I'll definitely be putting out a video to go over that in depth with you guys because it'll be a great event for healers and tanks. For now though, feel free to go do a little sightseeing. Finally, we've got some quality of life changes as well. We can re-roll visions in the Infinite Archive using archival fortunes. There are some improvements to our compass. We can now swim using our mount. I love this feature. There were some updates to dodge roll visuals, and we can replay quest dialogue. There are, of course, bug fixes and furnishing stuff that I didn't really talk about here, but you can read more about those if you like, because I have linked the patch notes in the description for you guys. And that was everything that we had to talk about. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Let me know what you'll be getting up to during Update 47. Don't forget to check out the link in the description so you can follow me on Stuff and join my Discord server. Before we sign off, I also want to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters Tyler Scott, Dylan Stewart, and Sharni Lee, as well as my YouTube members King Gingy, Durgy, insert username Eric from Ohio, Timeburn, and Malcolm Ewing. Thank you guys for your continued support, and I appreciate it. I think all I've got left to say is that I've been Doc. Take care of yourselves, be good to others, make sure to leave some flowers on Replenishing Barrier's grave, and I will catch y'all in the next one.